If you are buying a property or if you're a seller preparing your house for sale, these are things you really need to look for. Now, I'm a seasoned agent. When I'm coming and viewing a property or listing a property, these are the things that I look for. Now, just a helpful little tip here. You don't have to write all this down. I will put down in the description box down below a checklist of the things you should be looking for. I'm also updating my home inspection checklist, which I will also link down there in the description box for you. So let's get into it. It's gonna be a long one and I'll talk as fast as I possibly can. Let's do it. The very first thing I do before even meeting with a homeowner that wants to sell their property or a buyer who's looking to purchase in the area is I will show up a few hours before the appointment time or even show up the previous day and I drive the neighborhood. I might even talk to some of the homeowners, asking them about the community, looking at what investments they're making in their home. Are they putting solar panels on the roofs of their property? Are they maintaining their front yard? Are there any pit bulls running around? Are there people that, have closed shop and it's abandoned in some of the houses in the neighborhood? Like, you have to really make, I would say, a good judgment on whether or not that community is increasing in value and homeowners are maintaining. And if they're not, I would just say, take a second consideration and maybe not looking in that area because you're spending a lot of money. And if the area is declining, not a great investment, but keep an eye open for that. That's really, really important. If you're a buyer or a seller, look up at your ceilings. It's very telling what issues could be going on that you have no idea about. So there could be a dark stain in the ceiling, it could be a roof leak. There could be horizontal cracks in the ceiling, which usually means there's some settling. Okay, and if you're noticing that, go check the doors, because if there's a lot of settling, the doors won't close smoothly. Now, of course, you're going to want to take care of this if you're a homeowner. But if you are a buyer, I'm telling you, look up. Sometimes we see evidence that the texture, like in my area, we have this orange peel texture on our walls. And if you look up in the ceilings and there is different texture everywhere, there could have been a repipe or a leak. Sometimes it's just somebody's putting in speakers or putting recessed lights in, but it's a question that you need to be aware of and, make sure you do a little bit more research if it's all over the house. This is a warning about popcorn ceilings. If you're in the house, you notice that there's popcorn ceilings throughout the house, get it tested, okay? Put that in the back of your mind that there's gonna be an extra expense. And if you think it's gonna be really easy just to scrape it off over a weekend, it's not. It's very, very laborious. I mean, I still think I have grit in my teeth from 10 years ago when I did it. It's a mess, but more importantly, it could be a massive health risk for you. So get it tested. Super important. Another area that homeowners neglect are the windows, and boy, are they expensive to replace. So look closely. It's very common in my area to have compromised seals where the windows kind of look foggy. You might want to ask the listing agent if you can open a few windows, kind of get an idea if they're on the newer side. But, just be careful with that. It's really easy to fall in love with a house, but look closely at some of the bigger investments that could potentially need to be repaired or replaced in the next few years. Windows is one of those things. I have had my followers from Florida reach out to me saying, hey girl, you know what? We're not selling a house if we don't have perfect windows and a solid roof. They have extreme, we'll just say, weather out there with the hurricanes, and no one's buying a property unless those two things are in place. So be mindful on this video, like every area is different and there might be different demands for different areas. So let's talk about that roof. When you're viewing the property for the very first time, it's very difficult to ascertain whether or not you have a solid roof or not. But when you're on that second level, if it is a 2-story, look out. Look if there's any broken tiles. See if there's any wear and tear. If you're in a tract home, go look around the neighborhood. Are people replacing their roofs, or are they, just patching it? Or like I have Spanish tile on my house and it can last 100 years and nothing's going to happen to it. But it is really important to, just kind of get an idea. Is this going to be something you're going to have to replace? And of course, when you're looking at the ceilings, you're going to see if there's any evidence of any water stains or potential leaks. But it is an important thing to kind of get your head around whether or not that's going to be a future investment. When you're looking at the roofs, especially on the second level, look at the rain gutters, all right? If they're full of debris, right in that contract, you're making an offer that you want that removed. Most homeowners will agree to it because yeah, whatever, let's just get it under contract and it's one less thing you have to do. But do be aware, if those rain gutters are full of debris, right, what other things haven't they been maintaining? So for you homeowners out there, I say do this before you even put your house on the market. It will come up in an inspection and it's just, it's goodwill, right? Get it done. maintain your house. Chop, chop. When I'm looking at a property, I always take my little toolkit with me. And there are 3 little tools that I take with me that I highly recommend any homeowner or buyer investing in. This is good for maintenance reasons. And of course, you can potentially avoid some long-term issues. Okay, so my first tool is this little guy. It's a black flashlight. I called it a purple flashlight in my last video because you can see it's purple. But what this does is it highlights on the floor, on the curtains, any areas that have urine infestation. And when I'm listing a property, I always ask the homeowner, hey, do you mind if I flash this little guy around? And they're like, yeah, no problem. My pets are great. Well, you'd be surprised how many people have pet problems. So I would recommend keeping this. I went up to my bedroom this morning and I want to see if my animal was being good. And lo and behold, we have some compromised areas. So if you're buying a house, always good to know kind of what you're dealing with. And actually, I had an Arizona follower reach out to me and say, hey, Audra, this is great for finding scorpion infestation. Apparently, you flashed it on the little scorpion areas and it will, light up bright white. So good to know. Okay, this is my holy grail tool. I don't go anywhere without it. This is a water pressure gauge. And what you do is you twist this little thing onto a hose bib, preferably closest to the street, meaning the hose bib is the closest one to the street. Turn on the little faucet, and this will tell you what the reading is, how much pressure you're getting off your piping system. So it should be between 60 and 70 PSI. I believe if you're at 80, it becomes a code issue. Some of you have a water pressure regulator on your property. You can always adjust it, but if the pressure coming from the street into the house is really low, you got a problem. This is my most recent purchase. I thought I was losing my mind. I kept smelling gas in my family room and I had people come and look at it. I'm like, do you guys smell anything? They're like, no, you're fine. So I bought this little guy because I thought I was imagining things. And lo and behold, I have a gas leak. It's very small, but this little guy is very sensitive. If you're looking at properties, and you smell a little something, you just take this out of your purse or your bag and turn it on and it will flash red if they sense there's any gas leak. So that is really important. And if you're a homeowner and you're smelling something, this is a good investment. This isn't that expensive. It's a good maintenance. And also for health reasons, you should invest in this. Okay. By the way, once again, not sponsored. Love this little thing. Let's talk HVAC or air conditioning systems, okay? I've had a few of my followers reach out from Arizona saying, Audra, we got people that the first question they ask out of their mouth is, how's the air conditioning system? Because where we come from, we don't survive unless we have air conditioning. So if you are looking at properties, it is really important to go look at the air conditioning condensers. Sometimes they're just put on the side of the house. You got vines and dogs peeing on them and they have been neglected. Now, if you go ask any homeowner how their HVAC system or their air conditioning units are functioning, they more than likely will say, oh, it's great, I don't have any problems. And then you get to the home inspection and there's always problems, okay? Unless it's a newer unit. So if you are a buyer and you're looking around, really pay attention to that HVAC system or the air conditioning condensers. If it's not in great condition, you need to kind of think about, I got to replace that in the next 5 years. So price that in, make that a consideration. Is it worth me making an offer on this house, knowing that there's going to be a big investment in the future? Or maybe when you go make that offer, you address it, by asking a lower price or a credit. Another area that you should look at if you're a homeowner, for maintenance reasons and a buyer is when you're out looking at the sidewalks and the landscaping, are there any darker areas? Is there too much water settling after a storm? Or it could be just that, it's an area that doesn't get a lot of sun. But see if there's any mossy areas. And if you're a homeowner, you're going to want to keep that power wash. It's good for maintenance reasons, but also it could be an indication that the drainage system isn't up to par. So keep an eye open for that. It's really important when we get a lot of rain, which we all know we're getting a lot more weather now. That could, be an indication that that's something you're going to have to address in the future. And if you are buying a house, a lot of these homeowners have very advanced, we'll just say drainage systems. So you might want to ask if they have the plan. And of course, you might even ask to have it cleaned out or evaluated during that inspection period. When you're viewing the property, look to see if there's any sprinkler system and lighting systems. When you have a home inspector that comes on the property, more than likely they're going to tell you that that's outside their scope of investigation. They also don't usually inspect the barbecue. So these are things that you're going to want to look very closely at. You might even want to have your gardener come during that inspection period to make sure that those sprinklers and the drip systems are working along with the lighting systems. I'm serious. I bought this house, I don't know, 7 years ago, and that stuff still doesn't work. And I spent a lot of money. And as you're looking at the property and you're noticing maybe that there's no sprinklers, you need to kind of calculate how much that's going to cost if you have to install it, because things are so much more expensive now. Another area that you should be looking for is the electric systems in the property. So look at those light switches. Are they the old-fashioned toggle ones? I always recommend changing out your light switches every 10 to 15 years. It is an investment. It is costly to do. I had one of my followers say, hey, make sure you're looking out in that electronic panel has additional rooms to put GFI switches, and I don't even know what I'm talking about, but there's supposed to be more space on the electric panel. Make sure you look into that. Some properties have a lot of fluorescent lights throughout the house. Some people hate it. I'm one of those people. Some people like it. But if you are looking at the property, realize that's going to be another expense to take out the fluorescent lights or put your chandelier in there. All these things add up. So when you're looking at the property, look very closely. And if you plan on putting any of these chandeliers in some of the rooms, some of the homeowners are wired for it. So there's a little round cover plate usually in the middle of the room. So, keep an eye out for that too. Always good to know what the potential for the house is. It is very customary to include the washer and dryer in the purchase of a sale, at least in my area. And I have a lot of sellers going, no way, I spent so much money on it. No way am I going to keep that there. I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to warn you, it could cost you a lot more money. I can't tell you how many problems have happened when somebody's removing that washer and dryer, or they find mold, or there's, we'll just say damage on the floor. Like, if you're a seller, just leave it. And if you're a buyer and you want that washer and dryer and the seller agrees to it, if you have a home inspector, make sure they pull those things out and get a really close look behind the washer and dryer. And for that matter, if the refrigerator is going to convey, you want to look at that system as well. You won't believe some of the stories I could tell. Okay, keep your eyes and nose out for mold. You can usually smell it, at least I can, but I got a hypersensitive nose. But look under all those sinks, right? So mold needs a food source to be active. As soon as you stop the food, the water source, it dies. So don't let mold, be the deterrent of you not moving forward. I will say it's very common in my area. Of course, there's black mold and there's very dangerous types of mold. I'm not saying, move forward on that, but just be aware, how well has this house been maintained? And if you're a homeowner, look under those sinks on a regular basis. You don't want this to come up in a home inspection, and you definitely want to protect your health. When you're looking at sinks and faucets and shower heads, look to see if there's a lot of mineral deposits. If there's a lot of mineral deposits, more than likely the property has hard water. In our area, it's horrible. They might already have a water softening system on the property. If they do, you would definitely want to ask to have that conveyed and make sure it's working properly. Once again, the home inspector is not going to check that system. It's outside their scope of investigation. Now, there's pros and cons to having a water softening system, but in my area, because the mineral count is so high, we have some piping issues because of it. So keep an eye out for that, right? Just know what you're getting yourself into. If you're thinking about purchasing a home, you need to show up at the property at various times during the day. You need to check out the traffic, see if there's any nuisances on the property. Is there a train station nearby? Are you in an airplane flight zone? Do the school districts let their kids out all at one time, and now we got crazy noise and commotion going on? Are you located near a private gate and the gate flaps back and forth and it drives you crazy? Like, these are things that you really need to pay attention to. And if you are coming at the property various times during the day, check to see if that lighting works, right? You got to check it, because the home inspector won't. Keep an eye out for this. Look at the fences on the property. Spend a lot of time here, guys, because replacing a fence is really, really expensive. In my area, we have to share the burden of the wall maintenance, and if it falls down, we have to split it 50-50. Well, there are some neighbors that just can't afford it, right? So you're stuck with the burden of that fence, meaning getting it repaired or replaced. So when you're looking around at your properties, look at the fences very, very, very closely. And, if you see one that's tipping or isn't perfect, I would ask the homeowner if, they've had issue or disputes with that neighbor, and if they're willing to pitch in 50-50. It's a really, really expensive fix. So if you're looking at homes, make sure you pay attention to this one. Okay, another area that buyers aren't really looking at until way down the line is those permits on the property. Before you even make an offer, go to the city website, see if you can download permits on the property. Most cities have this. So you know what's permitted, what's not permitted. And if there's been a room addition or a massive kitchen remodel and the permits weren't pulled, what a lot of people don't, then you might have some problems, like who's doing that work, how safe is the addition, et cetera, et cetera. Really important. And if they don't have permits, make sure that you're making an offer with that in mind. Understand the risk. And where I see a lot of this right now, at least in my area, are those ADUs, or those little guest house in the back of people's backyards, right? They don't get the permits. Could be a danger for the people dwelling in that if it's not done properly. Keep an eye out for that. You don't want to go and spend all this money on an appraisal and a home inspection, all these things, and then you find out all these things weren't permitted. Do it up front. Locate the water heater, whether it's a tankless water heater or a regular one. See how old it is. See if it's been well maintained. See if there's a sediment trap. If you don't know what that is, just Google it. But anyway, go upstairs, turn the hot water on, see how long it takes to get hot water. I hate this. I hate it when I'm wasting a ton of water because it takes so long to get the water hot. There are some things like recirculation pumps that you can put in, but you just got to, kind of calculate that and be aware that this is an additional cost and you could be wasting a lot of water if the water heater isn't functioning properly. When you're looking at a property, look for pests. It's very common in my area to have termites. So when you're looking around the property, look up in the eaves, get a termite report. Ask the seller if he has a termite report already on the property, or ask the listing agent. Now realize when you have that termite report done, it's not just termites, it's all living organisms. So that's mold, that's bees, there might be beehives on the property, rats and mice, anything that's living, they will report it. Really important to know that before even making an offer if possible. Ugh. Termite can be a major issue. And if you are making an offer, I suggest you always ask for termite clearance 1. Can't hurt. Why not? Okay, I know that was a lot of information and I didn't probably cover all the things, but I will link down below a list of things that homeowners and home buyers should be looking for when purchasing or selling a home. And I will also link down below a home inspection checklist for all those out there that are either selling or buying a home. Thanks so much for watching this video. And if you got any value, please smash that like button and subscribe to that channel. It would mean the world to me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.